This week on Vaticano, Rome celebrates All Saints' Day. Catholic televisions of Europe meet in Hungary. Discover with us the importance of this apostolate. Pope Francis also pays a visit to the American cemetery in Nettuno, Italy. Come along with us to hear what he said there about war. For this and all the Pope's recent activities, Vaticano starts now. Around 40,000 pilgrims gathered in St. Peter's Square on November the 5th to pray the Angelus prayer with Pope Francis. The Holy Father explained the passage from the Gospel of Matthew, in which Jesus criticizes the scribes and the Pharisees.
Dear brothers and sisters, a frequent defect in those that have authority, be it civil or ecclesiastical, is to exact from others things that, however just, they themselves don't put into practice personally. They live a double life.
Pope Francis said that real authority stems from good examples. Authority can help, but when poorly exercised, it leads to corruption. Christians should follow the example of Jesus, who came to this world not to be served, but to serve.
He who is greatest among you shall be your servant.
Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.
After the Angelus, Pope Francis greeted Catholics from all over the world, and in particular from India. The Holy Father congratulated them on the beatification of Sister Vatalil, who was killed for her faith in 1995. This past week, the Holy Father received in audience the President of the Republic of Moldova, Mr. Igor Dodon. The two leaders spoke about the promotion of family values and peace and security in the world. At the end of the encounter, President Dodon introduced his family members to the Pope and gave him an icon of the Virgin Mary. Moldovans are predominantly Orthodox Christians, with Catholics making up just 0.5% of the population. Members of the International Federation of Catholic Universities met this week in Rome to discuss their role in helping refugees and migrants. Pope Francis welcomed this delegation on the last day of their conference. The 3 days of events took place at the Pontifical Gregorian University. Father David Holdcroft is from the Jesuit Refugee Service, and he sees this conference as a good opportunity to exchange the practice of working with refugees.
There needs to be a dialogue, a conversation between the countries where most of these refugees are, the refugee communities themselves and the refugee students, and the world of learning. And that's an ongoing conversation. It will never end.
A panel speaker, Dr. Michael Ondaatje from the Australian Catholic University, said that the key point in helping migrants and refugees is to provide them with opportunities for higher education.
The wonderful thing about education is that it provides people with a tool to break down unhelpful stereotypes about others, and it provides a way of opening up discussions with people who don't look and sound like ourselves.
In his remarks, also Pope Francis spoke about the importance of education and praised the International Federation of Catholic Universities for their response to the migration issue.
Therefore, you are challenged by the global and complex reality of contemporary migration and have established a scientific, theological, and pedagogical reflection deeply rooted in the social doctrine of the Church.
The day after All Souls' Day, Pope Francis presided over a Holy Mass for the repose of the cardinals and bishops that died during the year. In his homily, Pope Francis said that while this liturgy renews the sorrow caused by their loss, more importantly, it increases our hope for eternal life.
The faith we profess in the resurrection makes us men and women of hope, not of despair.
Over the course of the last year, 14 cardinals and 137 bishops died. The Sicily-Rome American Cemetery in Nettuno, Italy, is a memorial to those who gave their lives combating Nazism during the Second World War. Right here, nearly 8,000 American soldiers are buried. The Allied troops landed on this site in 1944 to bring hope and peace to the future generations, to live without war. Pilgrims are making their way through the memorial ahead of Pope Francis' special visit, where the Pope will celebrate Mass and pray for the fallen. Among the pilgrims, we met Ken Fowler from Canada. He came to visit the memorial to follow in the footsteps of his father.
They had been fighting in Sicily and up the east coast of Italy since June of '43.
Ken's father fought here as an artilleryman in the 1st Canadian Division. Helga Dodolet's grandfather also fought here, but for the other side.
I don't know, he never talked about that. Maybe he was a member of the SS, I don't really know. That was maybe the reason why he didn't want to talk to his grandchildren.
The war didn't spare anyone, guilty or innocent, Allies or Nazis, young or old. Thousands died here.
It's moving because there are lots of graves of maybe very young guys dying during the war.
The memorial getting ready for the big event. Pope Francis would be visiting to remember the dead. Gardeners trim the plants and tidy up the monuments.
It's great to know that the Holy Father is going to be here on November 2nd, and November 2nd in the Church is an important day. It's All Souls Day. And so to know that he's going to come here to this place that's so special for our nation and our country, and honoring those who gave of themselves, and that he would come here and pray on that day is a really special thing for us. Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Father Ryan was here with a group of his former parishioners to pray and acknowledge everybody in the group who served in the armed forces for the United States.
We were in the Eastern Mediterranean during the Arab-Israeli conflict in 1967, and our ship was attacked by the Israelis and torpedoed, and we lost 34 shipmates.
Chuck Welty served in the United States Air Force as an officer. He and his family were on pilgrimage to Italy.
And then to hear that the Pope is coming instead, or not instead, but that he's coming, it's just exciting to think that he would come here to honor our men and women here.
On November the 2nd, All Souls Day, Pope Francis came with a bouquet of white roses in hand, symbols of hope and remembrance, laid on the crosses that mark the soldiers' graves. During his homily, the Pope remembered all victims of war.
And this is the prayer that perhaps comes from all of us when we look at this cemetery. I am sure, Lord, that these brothers of ours are with you. I am sure. We say this. But please, Lord, stop. No more. No more war.
The Pope said that thousands of young people with broken hopes are laying here in this cemetery. But the world doesn't seem to learn the lesson. Today, he said, the world is again at war.
No more, Lord. No more. With war, one loses everything.
After the Mass, Pope Francis visited the mausoleum of the Ardeatine Caves. On this site, 335 Italian civilians were killed by Nazi troops in 1944.
You, Lord, know their faces and their names, all, even those of the 12 who remain unknown to us. To you, no one is unknown.
Pope Francis, praying before the tombs, said that God's covenant of love is stronger than death, and it is a guarantee of the resurrection. Thanks for watching. Get ready to take a look at Holy See diplomacy in action. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano.
In October, the Order of Malta, the Holy See, Caritas Internationalis and the International Catholic Migration Commission, together with state organizations, organized this side event here at the UN Geneva to highlight the need for a better public awareness about the problem of human trafficking. According to the International Labour Organization, there are 20.2 million victims of human trafficking globally. Human trafficking has become a huge business with annual profits of over $150 billion. The Apostolic Nuncio to the UN Geneva pointed out the sad fact that it seemed that nobody is willing to point the finger on criminals such as human traffickers.
We are living in a modern society. Everywhere communication. Everybody could say, it's there. You can spot him, pick him up. Nobody will come, nobody will touch him. The same thing is about drug distribution. No? In the small city of Ljubljana, even children can tell you where people are selling drugs, but nobody does anything.
He also mentioned an initiative that Pope Francis had launched at Santa Marta, his residence in Rome.
And the Pope created around this house, Santa Marta, where he lives. It's a nice place to live, I live there, but it's not that nice as papal residence, which is much fun. And he called this a group of Santa Marta, which is an alliance between the bishops and law enforcement authorities.
The nuncio said that most traffic victims do not trust law enforcement.
Experience has shown that this is much easier for them to grow to the trust of the church personnel than to law enforcement.
We spoke with Michel Vedet, main organizer of the panel and one of the two new ambassadors of the Order of Malta to combat human trafficking.
The event was actually to commemorate the European Day Against Human Trafficking. See, it was for us the first, I would say, public step to show the commitment of the Order of Malta against human trafficking.
As part of the initiative, the Order plans to build a network of partners consisting of UN organizations, governments, Catholic and other Christian organizations.
Beginning with the Church of England. And this is important because we want to do things in learning from best practices of others. It's a huge task, and what I am is possibly just a scout, an explorer. I must say, I'm just an ambassador, but ambassador not to use I must say my prestige or my title, but simply to listen and to shake hands and to see how we could really cooperate with others who are actually working since quite a few years against human trafficking.
The newly strengthened commitment of the Order of Malta is an answer to Pope Francis' call to end forced labor, modern slavery and trafficking in persons. Being a Catholic order, Michel Vedet speaks about the most important part of their campaign.
We need to pray for victims, and we need to pray for the conversion of people who actually commit this crime. And that's why, I must say, for example, next year, on the 8th of February, we shall celebrate the feast of Saint Bakita, Josephine Bakita. Josephine Bakita was a slave the first part of her life. And she then came to Italy, she became a religious, and as a religious, she helped former slaves. And I must say, then this is now, since 2015, this is now an international day of prayer for slaves. And I think we should put a special emphasis on this, because a plan of action cannot go without some help from heaven, I would say. And if we pretend to solve all the problems by human efforts, I think we're missing a very important step.
In 2014, at the initiative of Pope Francis, the Faith Leaders' Universal Declaration Against Slavery was signed. The goal is to eradicate modern slavery globally by 2020, through awareness, wisdom, innovation, technology, and the Holy Spirit, a mission not impossible.
The city of Esztergom is the spiritual heart of the Catholic Church in Hungary. Near Esztergom's cathedral, in the St. Albert Center, EWTN's partner, Bonum Television, held a forum for the Catholic televisions of Central and Eastern Europe. The participants came from 12 different nations to share their experience and, above all, to build a community of those who work in the apostolate.
We think it is very important for us to be in touch with all the other networks. As a Catholic television, we can't just follow our own nation, but we must open up to the European reality and not just be focused on our local issues and stories, Hungarian, Slovakian, Romanian, and so on. We must always have dialogue with all of us, all the Catholic TV networks.
EWTN has already been collaborating with each of these TV networks for years. So during the meetings, Eternal Word Television Network took the role of a bridge between all of the Catholic televisions of Eastern and Central Europe.
EWTN is privileged and pleased and honored to be able to collaborate with you all in your apostolates in so many, many ways.
I think one of the things that's most important about a gathering like this, a gathering of people who are involved in television apostolates and media apostolates, is that it builds a sense of community, it builds a sense of collaboration with one another. And that's essential if we're going to be effective in our efforts in the new evangelization.
Hungarian civil and church authorities also participated in the conference. The mayor of Esztergom, Etelka Romanek, and Cardinal Peter Erdo both spoke about the importance of television to spread Christian values in today's world.
And we hardly dare to ask what is going to happen, what is going to be the fate of this generation if we would not be brave enough to separate the dark from the light, belief from disbelief.
We Christians are the disciples of Jesus Christ, and we have received from him the command to go to all the people of the earth.
We're convinced of the importance of bringing the message of the Church, the beauty, the truth, the goodness that is the Catholic faith, to the peripheries, to people who are outside of the communities, who are at the edges of the community.
And so we need to speak all the languages, and the Holy Spirit will help us, because we must also use all the languages and all the means of human communication.
This three-day conference helped the Catholic televisions of Europe to meet each other, to find new ways of collaboration, and also to understand that they are not alone in this important ministry for the Church.
Together, we can make an impact on the society and the cultures and the peoples that we serve.
Thanks for watching. Stick around for more on Vaticano. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano. Rome has established a new tradition to celebrate All Saints' Day. The All Saints race has now become an annual event organized by the association Don Bosco in the World. Its president, Father Tullio Orler, explains how this tradition was born.
We've been doing this race now for 10 years on November 1st, which for us Catholics is All Saints' Day. And that's why we called it the Race of Saints.
Father Tullio explains that there's more than just fun to the race. It's also an opportunity to participate in a project of solidarity. Each year, the event raises funds which are then allocated to finance and support many projects the association has set up in the world. This year, the funds collected will help to put an end to the phenomenon of forced child marriages in India. Marcella Orsini spent a year organizing the run. She says that though it was hard work, it was all worth it.
It's important because we are using this event, we are using this fundraising event to promote, to let people know which is the real work on field, the real work by missionaries on field.
There was also another way to contribute to the missionary work. Everyone was invited to pray to their favorite saints.
Don Bosco has been nominated and has participated in this event for 10 years now, because the foundation itself is in his name.
St. John Bosco is the patron saint of the race, but we found another saint hidden among the participants.
I am Francis, as you can see from the costume. I run because I'm passionate about it, and I run in costume to bring a little smile to all the people here.
The Pope's athletes were also there. Thierry is a Swiss guard. He and 20 other sportsmen from the Vatican were raring to go.
The Vatican Athletics is here today to support the Don Bosco Foundation. We are running to help them.
Thousands of participants lining up on Via della Conciliazione, eager to run. 3, 2, 1. The 10 kilometers of the 10th edition of this Race of Saints began. Athletes and simple amateurs, people with disabilities, all running to celebrate All Saints' Day. More than 7,000 people in total, divided up into two groups, professional runners going for the whole 10-kilometer race, and the less experienced doing just 3 kilometers. After 30 minutes, there was a winner crossing the finish line. Elvis Kipkoech from Kenya concluded the All Saints race with a time of 30 minutes and 29 seconds.
Thanks for cheering me, and I'm so happy to win this race.
The first place winner in the women's category, Caroline Chirono, wasn't far behind with a time of 35 minutes and 2 seconds.
First of all, I want to thank God for me coming here. It is my first time to be in Rome, so I'm really very happy.
All of the participants got a special medal souvenir coined for the occasion, and the winners received trophies and prizes. At the end of the race, everyone was welcome to pray the Angelus prayer in St. Peter's Square. And the 10th edition of the All Saints race came to an end with the blessing of Pope Francis.
A special greeting goes to the participants in the Race of Saints, promoted by the Don Bosco in the World Foundation. Thanks for offering the dimension of a popular feast to the religious celebration of All Saints.
One month ahead of his trip to Bangladesh and Myanmar, Pope Francis is inviting prayer for the people of Asia in his new Pope video.
De sus poblaciones, herederas de antiguas culturas, religiones y tradiciones. En este continente donde la Iglesia es una minoría, el desafío es apasionante. Debemos promover el diálogo entre religiones y culturas. El diálogo es una parte esencial de la misión de la Iglesia en Asia. Pidamos por los cristianos de Asia, para que favorezcan el diálogo, la paz y la comprensión mutua, y especialmente con aquellos que pertenecen a otras religiones.
The Pope's video is an initiative developed by the Pope's Worldwide Prayer Network in order to spread the Holy Father's monthly intentions related to the various challenges faced by humanity. Join us next week on Vaticano and discover the Christian origins of Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching.